Good afternoon. Welcome to Central Carolina Community Foundation's grant information session. I am Erin Johnson, and you see before you my wonderful colleagues who are helping and providing all the grants this year for us. So I'll let us go around for a minute and just introduce yourselves briefly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll start. Hey everyone, I'm Jamesha Shackerford. I'm one of the program officers on the community investment team. Super excited to chat with you all today.
Hey everyone, my name is Via Morris. I'm the philanthropy intern and I take grant lead on our Jumpstarting Capacity Building grant.
Hi everyone, I'm Cortney Bailey with the community investment team and I work with our corporate competitive grants.
Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Houck. I'm the Strategic Initiatives Associate, and I'll pass it back to you, Erin.
Thanks. And Lee Goebel, who you all can't see, is running our screen for us. So we'll be saying next slide to Lee, and we're very thankful that he's helped organize all of this for us today. We are going to have a chat box that's open, and my screen looks a little bit different. Hopefully everyone can see the chat function. Oh, it's way over here. That's why. Okay. See the chat function. Cortney will be helping us with the chat box, and she'll be answering questions as we go. And anything that's kind of something that the whole group should know about, she'll chime in, and we'll try to answer that on the spot. So we do want this to be informal, a chance for you to get to know us, get to know our grants, and ask any questions that you might have of us as we move through. A lot of our grants this year are the same, and there are some that are different. And so we wanted to make sure we spent this time to really go over all the different information that we have available, as well as pointing you to our website. All the information is there as well. This is a chance for you to hear it from us and ask any clarifying questions you might have, because we're ready to go. Grants are open right now, and more grants are opening next month, and they're going to be going on all the way through the end of the year. So we'll get started. Lee, you want to go to the next slide for us? All right, so I see there's still a few people that are adding as we go, and so we're going to spend the first few minutes just kind of going over what a community foundation is. I know that most of you know that already, but want to make sure we're all on the same page. Central Carolina Community Foundation is obviously a community foundation, and people sometimes don't realize that we are a 501c3 charity as well. We are a nonprofit. We have a board of directors, and they are the ones who have the final say in our grant making. They sign off on all of our grants every year. A community foundation, by definition, serves a geographic region. The Central Carolina Community Foundation serves 11 counties in the Midlands, which is pretty big geographic-wise, and obviously demographic and everything else. A very diverse region that we serve. We'll show a picture of it later what the kind of geographic is, but a community foundation has a collection of funds that we rely heavily on our donors. They donate to the community foundation, and most of our funds are donor advised funds, where the donor then directs where those funding should go. We do our best to try to be leaders in this community when it comes to philanthropy. We consider ourselves the center for philanthropy in the community. And we try our best to also stay abreast of what's going on, what the needs are, what's important to our community, and address that as appropriate. One of the biggest things that we do is really assist philanthropic people, and anyone can be a philanthropist. We say that all the time. We assist them with achieving their goals in philanthropy. And so we oftentimes are a resource for donors that's everything from corporations all the way down to individual donors who are looking to find organizations that meet their needs. And so we're a resource oftentimes for those folks and those individuals who are wanting to do good, and we help sort of direct that funding for them. All right, next slide. So this is sort of a map of the community foundations in South Carolina. Now I need to say some of the other regions have changed, but our 11 counties have not. So we're the 11 counties there, the yellow counties in the Midlands. And that's our region. It's quite wide, and that's who we now serve. So just wanted to be able you to see that. If you're an organization that serves other parts of the state, I really encourage you to get to know the community foundations that are in other parts of the state. They're all very approachable. Some of them do overlap a little bit. So if you have any questions though about who serves your area, we're more than happy to connect you with that foundation. And the Community Foundation world is very close, and we're more than happy to make those connections for you, though. Next slide. Oh, so we have a big announcement. You're the first ones to hear it. So this year, Central Carolina Community Foundation made our grants have topped 200 million now. We're now at it's 205 million, but it's even higher now because we're making grants every day. We're very excited about that. And that's a lot of people don't realize we are one of, if not one of the largest funders in the state. And we're very proud of that. And you see there, that graph shows the interest areas of where we funded. It's very diverse. You know, we're not locked into any one particular issue. And so it does span many different issues that are out in the community. The largest one being education, and that's probably because, well, second largest one, because we also do scholarships. And Jamesha will talk a little bit about that later, that we do quite a bit of grant making for scholarships. All right, next one. So, you know, the big question is what's new this year, right? So what do we have that's different? You'll see a lot of things that are the same, some things that are different. With our working community investment, we still are focusing on livability. We have been focusing on that for quite a while. Our definition, though, of livability has evolved a little bit, and Jamesha will cover that as well. We think it's much more timely, and it meets the needs of our communities now and what we're all going through. We also have a goal of increasing philanthropy. You'll see some of our grants require a match because we want you to be able to use these grants to leverage more funding. We also fund heavily, as Elizabeth will talk about, when it comes to giving days like Midlands Gives, and we really want to support other people in their philanthropy. And then we are leaning a lot heavier into nonprofit capacity building, and Maya will talk some about that as well. We know it's important. We know that our nonprofit community, many of you are struggling, and so we are doing what we can to try to meet those needs for capacity as we move forward through the year. So we've had quite a bit of increase in our money we've set aside for nonprofit capacity building. We are continuing to try to reach outside of Richland County. We know the majority of our nonprofits are headquartered here in Richland County, and so of course the majority of our money will go here, but we're doing everything we can to get to know partners in other counties and to fund outside of Richland County because we believe that that's very important. We also are doing our best to fund organizations that are led by people of color, that are serving communities of color, organizations that are serving our rural populations, and really thinking through how we can diversify the organizations that we're also funding. We did talk about our nonprofit capacity building a little bit there and what's new there. We are trying to be better, and some of you have heard some of this. Thank you to those of you who've been interviewed by Elizabeth and myself. We are trying to do better about coordinating the work of the Community Foundation to where you see the trainings that come from Midlands Gives, the trainings that might come through our community investment, our grant making, as well as the work of the African American Philanthropy Committee. We're doing our best to make sure that that is more coordinated and seamless and complements each other. And so that hopefully you'll see on the back end the result of that as we go. And then the last thing you see there is we are spending more time and energy working with and partnering with and getting to know Black, Indigenous, people of color leaders, as well as the organizations that they work in and that communities that they're serving. We are trying to be more diverse in our funding and thinking through how that can better serve these communities. So we're looking at offering general operating support grants, which is somewhat new for the Community Foundation, as well as looking at other ways that we can support engagement and networking within those communities, between those leaders and between those leaders and the Community Foundation. So those are some of the things that we're going to be trying to do, and we'll see a little bit more about that as we talk through over the next few minutes. And again, if you have any questions as we go, please type them in. We'll do our best to try and answer that. And yeah, I think we're ready to move on unless I've forgotten anything, team. Okay, good. All right, so I'll pass it on then to, oh, is that still me? That's still me. So I'll keep talking. So in general, what is it the Community Foundation does? We kind of have big buckets, right? Like our biggest thing that we're trying to be much better about is making connections. And I'm really, really proud of the work the Community Foundation has done, especially during the pandemic. We had a lot of people reach out and say, who needs help? And we connected them with organizations that we knew were doing good work. We're out in the community, we're responding. to not only the pandemic, but also to some of the civil justice, social justice movement that's out there as well. So we do our best to find out what's going on in the community and making those connections as we go. I mentioned as well, we have donor advised funds. Donor advised funds is our majority of the funding that goes out the door. A lot of our donors do, though, ask for our advice. And they say, this is an area I'm interested in, who's working in that area, or who's in this geographic community, or whatever that is they specifically ask for. And we've been doing a much better job of responding to our donors' requests. We also have agency funds, which Jamesha will mention here soon, and what that looks like, and that's the service we provide for our nonprofits. We do some special initiatives, hopefully you know about On the Table and Midlands Gives. We're very proud of that work, and it does help us better connect with our community. Again, we have scholarships and we have a few awards that we also provide. And then our biggest thing that you're probably here wanting to learn more about is competitive grant making. We have quite a few grants that have applications and reports and all those things that we do with our competitive grant making, and we'll talk some about that as well today. All right. Unless there's any other questions, we'll move on and chat about agency funds with Jamesha.
Thank you, Erin, for starting us off. Let's talk about some agency funds. So agency funds are established by the nonprofit organization to benefit the nonprofit. This is a way for you all to have long-term unrestricted income that comes back to your organization. Currently, right now, we have about 40 agency funds that we have here at the foundation. One thing we wanted to let you all know about the service is that it gives you the ability to pool your money with other larger investments, which leads to you all having lower fees when it comes to investments. So you're able to pool your current endowment with other endowments to help it grow. Another thing is the benefit of having an agency fund is we can deal with all of those complex gifts that you all may have. So one of those may be, you know, a gift annuity, and this is a category of planned giving. And with that, it involves a contract between a donor and a charity whereby the donor transfers cash or property to the charity in exchange for a partial tax deduction. So again, all those complex gifts that your donor, a donor that you have may come to you, the community foundation through the agency fund can provide that ability to handle that transaction easily. And then another thing we wanted to know about having the agency funds with us is that it will be trusted with the foundation. We believe we are a trusted steward of dollars in the community, so it allows you to have some assets designated with us. So now we talked about agency funds, let's slide over to scholarships. I have the pleasure of working with scholarship funds, helping our donors in the community who want to help students pursue their higher education. Right now, we have about 46 scholarship funds. In 2020, we awarded, as you can see, $467,000 to 204 students. It's an online application that will start in January through March. One thing I do want to note about scholarships is that it is one application that you can apply to multiple scholarships. So if you have students, or if you have as well as if you have clients that you're trying to help find them scholarships, I would always encourage you guys to point them over to our scholarships. Not all of them are merit-based. They have different requirements, and the way that you can find more information is through our website. Sliding over to our David W. Robinson Catalyst Award. I love this award, man, because it recognizes an organization that has exemplified leadership, creativity, vision, and commitment to addressing a critical community needs. And as you can see below where it says awardees demonstrate, these are the 4 key areas that we look at. An organization has a persistent effort to find a solution to a complex problem, creativity to explore alternative approaches, community collaboration. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard us say this. We love collaborations. And then lastly, another key area that we look at is that it has the organization has specific outcomes towards meeting a community need. One thing that I do want to note to you all about this year is the process is a little different. So before we would typically accept nominations from the public. This year we're doing it a little bit differently. The award process has been revised, and we will be taking nominations. We will not be taking nominations from the public, and our board will be making award to an organization that has exemplified these 4 characteristics during COVID. So again, this process is a little bit different from previous years. We will not be accepting public nominations. However, our board has been looking at organizations across the Midlands who've been doing really great work in these 4 areas during COVID, and we'll be giving that award this coming spring. Oh, and just so you know, the history of some of the organizations who have gotten it, Transition has gotten it before. Another organization is the Greater Columbia Literacy Council. So we wanted to also let you know that this award is given to organizations from different categories. So it's not just one particular organization. And then it's really an award from our board to an organization's board. David W. Robinson, he was a former board member, and from his passing, this award was established. And again, it is for our board to recognize an organization and to present this award to their board. Okay, now I can pass the mic on.
Thank you, Jamesha. So again, I would want to remind you guys that the scholarships in particular are super important. We really need y'all's help getting the word out about our scholarships. That application opens January 1, Jamesha? January 1?
Yep, it opens up on January 1, and it is all online. That's including the references for the student as well. Everything will be taken online. And thank you, Erin, for pointing it out. We really want to make sure that students in the Midlands know that these dollars are available. We'll have about $500,000 to give out next year. So we want these scholarships to be awarded to students. So, and again, it covers different requirements for the scholarship, as well as different, different counties as well. We have some for Lexington County, we have some scholarships for Sumter. They're not all based in Richland County. So please get the word out.
That's right, thank you. So now we're going to talk a little bit about competitive grant making. And so you see there are the little bullet points of all the different competitive grants that we do have. And we have a combination of grants that are run from dollars specifically from the Community Foundation, as well as dollars. We help some of our corporate donors with some of their grant making as well. So some that we'll hit pretty deep on some of the ones that have the stars. The others I'm going to kind of briefly talk about here. Field of interest funds are funds that donors have set up that are for a specific field of interest, something they care about. And what they recognized is that they said, you know, I might have a pet organization now, but that organization might not always be around, right? So they set up a fund that says, for example, for the benefit of animals, for animal welfare, and they leave it up to the Community Foundation to then identify organizations that are doing the best work in that specific field of interest. So we do have field of interest funds for animal welfare, education, the arts, human service. Specifically in this case, it's really around basic human need, as well as leadership. And the leadership ones we do have are really for the David W. Robinson is a field of interest fund, as well as women in leadership as well. And so those are funds that we direct every year. And we don't have applications for that this year, but we do use, and Elizabeth talked about this, we use Midlands Gives as a way to sort of vet organizations to find out who's out there, who's doing work in specific areas, and we kind of go from there to do some of our grant making. Sunoco Foundation, that is specifically for Darlington and a little bit in the Florence community. Those are outside of our 11 counties, but we do help with grant making in those communities. They have a specific interest around arts and culture, community development, the environment, education, health and wellness, and they really direct most of that grant making. We do share nonprofits from those 2 communities who are working in that field who want to get and develop a relationship with Sunoco. If you're an organization that is housed in those communities or is intentionally serving those communities, reach out to Cortney Bailey, who you see there on the screen. She is a contact. Reach out to her and talk with her a little bit about the process of getting your information in front of Sunoco. They don't have an open application at this point, but we do pass information on to them when we interact with a nonprofit that's working in their communities. Hootie and the Blowfish is another organization. I think some of you may know who Hootie and the Blowfish are. Their foundation is housed here at Central Carolina Community Foundation. This is a closed application. They specifically they have a field of interest that they sort of look at each year. Almost always it does include arts education. And in this last few years, it's been looking at public school arts education in the public schools. They have recently been looking at mental health awareness as well as services for children with disabilities, and they've also looked at veteran services. And they intentionally are wanting to look at organizations that are serving low income or high need counties. And so we help them process that because we help kind of whittle that list down a little bit. And they do have an application process that opens in February, March timeframe. If you're an organization that's doing some work in some of those areas, it doesn't hurt to reach out to Cortney. But we typically sort of vet that list and then give them a smaller list, and there is an application process that goes along with that. So check out our website to get information about them. If you're interested in finding out more, I think you'd be a good fit, or say maybe your school district would be a good fit, then certainly reach out to Cortney as well about that. And then Lynch's River Conservation Fund, it is open right now. It is around conservation or along the Lynch's River watershed. And that runs from the North Carolina border all the way down to the confluence with the Greater PD River. That's what I've learned about conservation now. So we are looking at land conservation projects. And if you're a land trust or if you're in that field, then hopefully you know about the Lynch's River Conservation Fund. Give me a call if you have some questions. That application does close on the 30th, and it opens once a year for summer months through September 30th. The 1SC fund is, hopefully you've heard about the 1SC fund. We do two different things with that. The main priority is disaster recovery, making sure people are safe and in secure sanitary housing, as well as getting basic needs met during a disaster. We are doing funding in both the hurricane relief as well as COVID. We are no longer accepting applications at this point for COVID recovery and relief. But the hurricane relief and recovery is currently open until September 30th. So if you're an organization that's in the 8 counties that were affected by Hurricane Florence, that was already a year and a half ago now, is that right? Then we are accepting applications if you're doing getting people back into safe, secure, and sanitary housing. So look at our website for that information. We try to work it's as easy as possible for people to get out there and get some work done, but Cortney is the contact for that as well. We encourage you to reach out to her for that. And we do have a Midlands Community Response Fund, and that does the same sort of thing, but it's not currently accepting applications right now either. But we will let you know if and when it does do that. And so we'll talk a little bit about AFLAC, which we do help with their charitable giving, and we'll talk about the remaining ones there that you see on the list. And we'll also mention a little bit about Knight Foundation as we move forward. So now let's chat about AFLAC. So AFLAC is a great partner of the Community Foundation. They are specifically interested in health and well-being and education. And the work that they do is really wonderful. I love it. They offer 2 grant cycles a year. And that's really for organizations who are doing programming from either January to December, depending on your calendar, or if you're doing from projects from July to June. So maybe like a school calendar kind of thing. So applications are open right now for funding for January to December. And so it's open September 1 through September 30th, and then it'll open again March 1 through March 31st. Those dates remain pretty consistent, so put that on your calendar if you're one of those organizations that works in the field of health and well-being or education. For education, they're kind of in particular looking at not necessarily education institutions. So it should be a nonprofit that is working in the field of education. And if you receive, there is a $10,000 limit on the ask. It is also for statewide. So this is a competitive grant. I need to say that it's quite competitive because any nonprofit around the state can apply for this, not just our 11 counties. So we do encourage other nonprofits from around the state to apply for this funding. And just so you know, they're also trying to make sure they spread the wealth a little bit. So nonprofits that currently are receiving money right now for 2020, they are not eligible to apply again for another year. So that allows them to then provide more organizations and develop relationships with more organizations as well as we move forward. So that's AFLAC. Any questions about that, certainly reach out to Cortney. You have 7 days to get your application in. But it's, again, pretty simple application, but certainly reach out to Cortney if you have any questions about it. All right, so we're going to now talk about Knight Foundation. So the Knight Foundation is the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. They used to own the state newspaper. And so when they closed the state newspaper, they started a donor advised fund here at Central Carolina Community Foundation. So that funding is limited to Columbia. We are allowed to go out to Richland County. So that is specific to where their geographic area they want to fund. They are really interested in making and ensuring Columbia stays a place that can attract talent and really is a vibrant, livable community. So they're looking at, again, attracting and keeping talented people. They want to expand economic opportunity. So they are very interested in what's going on Main Street. They're very interested in what's going on at our riverfronts. But they also want to make sure that those spaces are accessible to everyone. People feel comfortable being there and are allowed to be there and feel like it's a welcoming space for them. So they're looking at the really great revitalization that's gone on Main Street, expanding that out beyond just the Main Street district. They are also interested in how to help rebuild community after the pandemic. And so we're already trying to consider right now what needs to be put into place for when we are able to be in community together again, what it means to be able to do that. And so we're looking at how to revitalize the economy and the community soon, hopefully very soon. And again, they really want a culture of engagement because it was a newspaper, right? So they're interested in people being civically engaged and knowing what's going on in their communities and being able to act accordingly and react accordingly to what they've learned. So whether that is being able to participate in public discussions or just having the information that they need to be able to make informed decisions. They're very interested in that as well. And so some of the work that they've done has been around public space, public life. And so some of the work you've seen around Columbia has been partially funded by the Knight Foundation. So if you are an organization that's working specifically here in Columbia and you want to talk more, give a call to Cortney and she'll be glad to chat with you. That application is kind of an open application year round. They work on a January to December timeline. And so it's open and we submit applications as appropriate. We actually work with the nonprofit to submit that application because we submit it to Knight on your behalf. And so it's a real partnership between us and the nonprofit to submit that. So give a call to Cortney if you have some ideas that you want to run by her. All right, I think now we're going to move over to Elizabeth and she'll talk a little bit about our Beyond the Table grants.
Yes, definitely. So as some of you may know, On the Table is getting ready to come up. We're entering our third year of On the Table. And this year, given everything that's going on, we're actually expanding the initiative from a day to a week long. So if you are interested in hosting, check out onthetablecola.org so that you can learn more about how to host a conversation. Or if you're not sure about hosting, you can also start seeing some of those public conversations that'll be popping up as well, most of which will be virtual, of course, to make sure that that's accessible for folks in our community. So from On the Table, we really want to bring people together, build relationships, and ultimately take action. So there is an opportunity for those living in Richland, Lexington, and Sumter counties to participate in the Beyond the Table grants, which are grants are awarded up to $2,000. So that application will go live on October 4th, so right when the day of conversations, or rather the week of conversations begins, and will continue to be open through November 10th. So the hope for mini grants is changing a little bit this year. Of course, from years prior, we public schools, superb outdoor parks and recreation, vibrant social community events, diversity and inclusiveness, good jobs and economic development, poverty and economic insecurity, crime, violence, and public safety, race relations, racism and discrimination, and walkable and bikeable urban areas. So we're hoping that projects will center around at least one of those topics, but also with the end goal of increasing volunteering, promoting civic engagement, fostering social change, and or supporting a locally owned business. These we know are examples of community attachment. So while we're focusing on these areas of opportunity for our communities to strengthen, and while we're working together, having these specific objectives around volunteering, civic engagement, social change, and supporting locally owned businesses. So we are hoping that our grantees will propose projects for this. Of course, this is available for nonprofits, 501c with a 501c3 in good standing, or a fiscal sponsor. So if you're an individual who's interested in participating, teaming up with a local nonprofit with that 501c3 in good standing, and you can be eligible for this $2,000 mini grant as well. So next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit too about our affiliate funds. So one of our funds is in the Greater Chapin area. If you need a specific map of that, that is available on our website of what all that covers, given the kind of unique nature of Chapin. So every year there's a grant cycle that opens up, or grant application rather, that opens up on February 1st through the 28th. So that will be that'll open up then. And typically grants are around $1,000. So there's been some variation in this past year with the pandemic. So I think that it's kind of an open and ongoing conversation with Greater Chapin Community Foundation there. There's also our affiliate funds in Orangeburg, Calhoun counties, Kershaw, and Sumter as well. So be sure to check back on the website for grants for opportunities as they arise. Those, again, are kind of ongoing conversations with those community funds, and so opportunities may pop up. So you'll want to make sure that you check out the grant section of Central Carolina Community Foundation's website.
Hey, Elizabeth, I'm going to add one thing about the affiliate funds in Orangeburg, Calhoun, Kershaw, and Sumter. They often provide matching grants for Midlands Gives during Midlands Gives. So if you're a nonprofit in one of those counties, please pay attention to those matching grant opportunities during Midlands Gives.
That's exactly what I'm about to talk about next. So Lee, can you please switch the slide for me? Thank you. So like Jamesha mentioned, for Midlands Gives, those affiliate funds offer matching dollars every year. So that's just easy money, honestly. There's no application that's required for that other than registering for Midlands Gives. With registering for Midlands Gives, it is now a year-round platform with a giving day component. So your organization will be listed as soon as you're approved for Midlands Gives. You are then on the Midlands Gives platform, which is great because Midlands Gives is a fairly simple way to improve your organization's fundraising and public awareness. There's about 700 visits a month on the website, even outside of the giving day. So that's just, for visibility, and there's categories listed. Potential donor goes on and specifically wants to support animal welfare, for example, they can just look at that category and see all the organizations across the 11 counties who have registered for Midlands Gives. And that registration will be coming up on October 12th, and then it will last through December 15th. There is an early bird benefit from October 12th to November 13th, so there's some extra added benefits there if you register a little bit earlier, but you can continue with the standard registration through December 15th as well. Midlands Gives Day, as you may have heard across media, is just a time for to really celebrate nonprofits in our region and the really amazing work that you all are doing. And it's an opportunity for prizes and matching donations from different donors, as well as from those affiliate funds, like I mentioned. And next year, Midlands Gives Day will be virtual again, and it will be May 4th, 2021. So that is the 18-hour giving day component that I referenced. We're entering into our 8th year, and so just wanted to bring light to that. I saw the wow from Erin. So we're entering into our 8th year, but now we have this year-round giving platform. So on giving days like Black Philanthropy Month that just happened on Give 828 Day, Giving Tuesday, your nonprofits will still be listed all throughout the year. So it's a time for to maintain that donor information as well, and have all those access to those records after Giving Day is long and gone. And I think we're ready to move on.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about Jumpstart and capacity building. Jumpstart is a grant administered by Network for Good. It's intended to build the fundraising capacity for nonprofit organizations. Included in the program, you get customer relationship management software, one-on-one coaching sessions, monthly webinars, and quarterly check-ins. So as you can see, the application goes live on September 30th. It'll close on October 31st. Also that day is a information session. So you must view the information session before applying. So you can find that link for the information session on our website under Jumpstart. If you are unable to view it live on the 30th, we're gonna have a recording available for you. And And yeah, I think that's it. Also about Jumpstart, we funded 10 organizations since 2018 to participate. We've seen great results. The majority have increased the number of donors and amount raised. They've also increased their efficiency and dramatically improved their communication strategy. So I'm going to move over to organizational capacity building mini grants. So these grants are up to $5,000, and they're going to fund activities to strengthen the organization. So examples of funded activities include strengthening governance, developing strategic planning, collaborations, merging operations, building reliable funding streams, and developing management skills. So also new to the capacity building mini grants is that we're going to allow nonprofits to fund for PPE and cleaning supplies. It also includes support for executive, staff, or founder succession planning and diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. I do want to emphasize that we will not fund any conferences or program expenses, but you can also fund consultants. So I'm going to move over to the next slide. As Erin mentioned earlier, we saw a need and we wanted to address it by allowing for more capacity building opportunities. So definitely be on the lookout for those. We're gonna have trainings, we're gonna have networking, coaching, and general operating support grants. And then I also want to talk about one of our newest, I guess you could say, initiatives, which will be a BIPOC book club beginning January 2021. So we're super excited about that. Again, it's for BIPOC leaders. Registration for the book club will begin in November. The books will be shipped to you by December. So as a sneak peek, I included the book that we're going to begin with. So it's a book by Rachel Ramjatan, who also works for Network for Good. It's entitled No More Duct Tape Fundraising, a Nonprofit Leader's Guide to Raising More Money. So like I said, make sure you stay tuned for more information about that. And then I'm going to pass it back over to Jamesha.
And one thing to mention for the book club is that we're actually going to have a conversation with the author for the last session. So it's kind of cool. It's just new different things we're trying to do to make connections, to help you also make networking and connections, and to kind of develop some affinity groups, if you will. And so this is just one of the things that we're going to try to do this year, and we'll hopefully have some other ideas as we move on.
Yeah, and another thing to note is also in partnership with our local AFP, which we're super excited about to be partnering with AFP on this. So next, we're going to talk about connected communities. I know that
Before we get into that, I do want to make sure, Cortney, if there have been any questions about all the other grants we've had so far, and you guys make sure you ask questions as we go, because I know what happens every year is that you remain silent for a whole hour and then our inboxes are flooded with emails. So if you could ask the question now, it'd be great, and we can hopefully answer that for everybody. All right, go ahead, Jamesha.
Go ahead. That's a good point, though. So with connected communities, this is where we ask, this is a grant making opportunity where we ask what draws you to a place and keeps a person there, what makes residents feel like they feel good about where they live at, and then lastly, what are the results of residents being connected to each other in their community. So moving on to our next slide, we're going to talk about a little bit differently. Some things have shifted with connected communities. As you know, this is our signature grant for the Community Foundation since 2015, 5 years, man. It focuses on increasing our community's livability. This includes, in the past, this can include welcoming community, vibrant social offering, and superb public spaces. Those three were our main focuses for years past. But from that, we've actually got new data. So the way Connected Community works is we actually look at studies from the our On the Table results, as well as the John S. and James L. Knight research that they do, Knight Foundation research that they do, that basically they pull different communities and ask them what makes you connected, what makes you love where you lived at. And since then, in recent years, we've noticed a change in really what makes people feel connected. New data have shown that both national and local levels that really identify livability, quality of life, and community attachment as being one of those three main things that really makes a person feel connected and love where they live at. This, along with all of the community changes due to the pandemic and social justice movements, have encouraged the evolution of Connected Community Grant, which we're super excited about. So when you think about Connected Communities this year, we're looking for projects that increase quality of life, as I said, community attachment and satisfaction by increasing Midlands residents' access to the following. That's safe places to live and work, healthcare facilities and services, quality job opportunities, not just any job opportunities, but quality job opportunities, affordable housing, which is always a hot topic, safe, proximal, high quality recreational areas, as well as quality of arts and culture events. We want to make sure we always keep arts and culture in that as well. So if you're still, if that has gauged your interest and you're still trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? So let's look into the Connected Communities details a little bit further. Again, the focus areas are livability, quality of life, and community attachment. Awards range from $2,000 to $5,000 to $50,000 a year. The challenge match, this is a challenge grant. And what we want you all to know is our goal with Connected Communities is to increase philanthropy in our region. So with this, we do ask organizations to raise 30% of whatever they were awarded, not necessarily what you were requested, but what you were approved for. Along with that, you must be located in the 11 county service area of the community foundation. Of course, be a 501c3 organization or public entity, educational institution, or faith-based organization. Lastly, we want you to know regarding the details is that you must be registered for Midlands Gives. That is a key requirement for our Connected Community grantee. Elizabeth has already provided you with great information about how to get involved. And another thing, the benefit of registering for Midlands Gives is that you get the opportunity to raise some dollars for that. If you were awarded the grant, you get the opportunity to raise some dollars for your matching grant, which is super fun. So our next slide, we're gonna go a little bit more into the details. Projects should, of course, enhance community connections in our 11 county service area, incorporate novel approaches for creating a vibrant and connected community, raise public awareness of the area and region. We want people to know what projects are going on. We want people to know how great our region is, so they will hopefully come and move and join our region. Another thing is we want it to provide a measurable level of community involvement. And this is through volunteers and participants. This might look a little different really with COVID, but we do want to have that volunteer and participation incorporated, because their studies have been shown that people who volunteer in their community have a greater community attachment than those who don't. Next is be new or an expansion project. Current programs from an organization will not be considered. Although what you do is great, but we do not want your same program that you've been doing, unless it's a new or expansion of that project. And then lastly, promote philanthropy across our region. Again, that focus is to increase philanthropy. One thing I do want to note, projects that we will not fund or things that we won't fund is routine operating expenses of an organization, fundraising projects, including events, debt reduction, endowment or capital campaigns, medical research, conference travels, underwriting, or sponsorships. Those are some things that we will not fund. Next, if you are interested, after hearing all of that, if you're like, okay, Jamesha, we're still interested in learning more. So the application process is really in 3 parts. It starts off with our letter of intent, which will open on October the 5th and close on November the 5th. And our letter of intent is that, and it's all online. One thing I do want to make sure we clearly articulate, the letter of intent submission will happen online, and will, as I said, open on October the 15th. And this is where you tell us in a couple of sentences, what do you want to do with your project? Is you get down to really the basics of your project. What will your project do? If you, from our letter of intent, it's reviewed, and then we select a certain number of organizations to come back to complete a full application. Now, this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty of your project. We start asking for your budget, your program plan and evaluation, we talk a lot more about the details of your project. We ask more information about the details of your project during the full application phase. So after our full application, those will be reviewed by our Community Impact Committee of our Board of Directors. And from there, they will select organizations to come for our final step, which is our presentation. And this is where you get the opportunity to bring your project to life. It goes from words on a paper to like full-blown life. So this will happen through your presentation. It's the questions and answers. It's where our board and our staff get opportunity to ask you more questions that may not have been as clear in your project, or that we may just want to know a little bit more about. From there, if you are awarded, your project timeline is between June 1st through May 31st. That will be your project timeline. So that's June 1st of 2021 through May 31st of 2022. Can't believe we're already thinking about 2022 dates. Well, that would be your project timeline. So you have to make sure that all of the dollars will be expensed between that time frame. One thing I want to make sure you all know is making sure that that money isn't expensed prior to June or after May 31st. It's really important that money is spent throughout those time frames, as well as that's where you get the opportunity to raise those matching dollars. Also, it has to happen within that time frame. Okay.
I do want to kind of go back with connected communities, what you mentioned, Jamesha, as it is a long process, and we are very, very aware of that. But one of the things we're trying to prevent is you completing a full application, which does require some time. That we want to prevent you from doing that if we know it's a project that's not a good fit for this year or for whatever reason. So we fully acknowledge it's a longer process. We try to be as transparent about that and communicate as much as possible. And we do, after the first round, Jamesha and I will have a call with all of the grantees who are applying for the second round and really kind of coach you through how to complete the application. So we try to provide support. And then if you make it to the presentation round, we also give you more support for that section as well. So it is long, but we try to make it as painless as possible, and we try to prevent any extra work. So.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Erin. So when you think about, if I'm interested in connected communities, what should I be doing now? That is really thinking about those ideas in this moment, even prior to October 15, when the LOI opens, thinking about your ideas, thinking about who those community collaborations that you may be able to connect with through this project is a great thing to think about at this moment. And then lastly, connect with us. We want you to know that you can come to us, that you see all of our beautiful faces. You got to hear a little bit more about who oversees which grants. And we want you all to know that we are accessible for you. We also want you to sign up for our email. See below, it says email sign up at yourfoundation.org, and make sure that you select nonprofit news list. Now, right now, if you go there, we are fixing a technicality with that, but I encourage you tomorrow to go to our website to sign up for our nonprofit news, because that's how you find out when applications open, when deadlines are coming up, and just any information regarding any support or benefit for the nonprofits. You will find it through nonprofit news list before you find it through anywhere. And we try not to spam you all. We are aware that all of us are overloaded with emails. So we try to make sure that the information that we're sending out is actually pertinent. So with those emails, they come twice a month. We try to make sure that it is the most important information from the Community Foundation, or just community information that we think that nonprofits should know about. Again, it is not spam. So that's pretty much how to connect with us. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. You have our phone number there, our general phone number, as well as everyone else's individual extension. We really want you all to know that we see you, the nonprofit community, as partners. We're really trying to make sure that we don't have this funder, grantee, weird power dynamic things. We want to make sure that you all see us as a partner, because we see you all as a partner, and we know that we could not uplift our community. We cannot help our donors steward dollars into our community if it wasn't for great organizations like you all. So from here, we're gonna open it up for questions. Courtney, did we get any questions yet?
We haven't received any yet, but I will say before the webinar, I received a few questions. If this will be available online, and it will be. We should have it on our grant opportunity page within a few days, so please stay tuned. Check out our grant opportunities, again, that we've covered today while you're on that page.
So I'm seeing that there are questions in the questions tab. If anyone has that tab.
Let's see. This is the power of technology. Okay, so I cannot see it. Lee, if you can see the questions, can you call them out to us?
Yes, I would be happy to do that.
Thank you.
So the first question, or a few people have asked, will these slides and this recording be available after? And I can answer that one. The answer is yes there. Give us about 24 hours and we will have a link to the recording as well as the slideshow that you've seen up on our website, and that'll be at yourfoundation.org/grants. Next question. April Frazier asks, where can I get more detailed information on the agency funds?
Yeah, so if you are interested in agency funds, I would say call over to us. Kevin Patton, our Vice President for Advancement, will be able to walk you through anything relating to agency funds, or really anyone on our finance team. So if you need help connecting with them, if you shoot me an email, I'll be happy to make that email introduction.
Okay. Next question. What's the best way for my organization to educate CCCF staff, decision makers, and those who make recommendations for DAFs about the work and community impact of my nonprofit?
So I would say the best way to do that is that we need to know about what you do. And so absolutely reach out to one of us and let's have a conversation. Make sure your website is up to date. Register for Midlands Gives, participate in our initiatives like On the Table so that we can get to know you. This is a relationship business, right? And so think about your own personal money. Rarely do you give money to someone that you don't know at all. And so it is important for you to participate in the things that we do so we can get to know you, and reach out to one of us. Any of us here that you see, you don't have to reach out to all of us. We talk regularly. And so reach out to one of us, especially if it's an area like, say, for example, if it's education or health and wellness, reach out to Courtney and she'll share your information with the rest of us. And we also frequently talk with our advancement staff who have more of a direct relationship with our donors. And we can share with them, hey, this organization is working in this area. And this is just to put in your back pocket if you have a donor who's interested in that. So that would be my recommendation. Let us see you more, hear from you more, and we can try to develop some real relationships from there.
Yeah, I think definitely that piece about Midlands Gives, Erin, because that's such an easy way on the back end. I'm looking at all of your registrations. And so then it's even that name familiarity and knowing who's the executive director, who's that Midlands Gives point of contact, seeing a little bit more about your mission, even for returning nonprofits and getting to refamiliarize and deepen that relationship on our end. So there's that connection for sure.
I would speak for all five of us. We go to midlandsgives.org a lot to search organizations to refresh our memory. Oh, well, yeah, who's in that county or who's doing work in this area? And so it's really important for you to be present there as well.
Next question. What are the funding ranges for the Knight Foundation?
Oh, that's a good question. So they typically keep it below, kind of the same thing we do, between 50 to 75 will be their cap. But yeah, I think usually 50,000 or less is generally where they're at with their funding.
Okay. The next two are Midlands Gives questions. The first one being, if we participated in Midlands Gives last year, do we have to register again for this year?
So the answer to that is you will just have to opt in. So you'll receive a notification that Midlands Gives registration is open. You'll log into the Midlands Gives platform and there'll be a little orange button there for you that says opt in. The only thing that you'll have to recomplete is, of course, if your mission has changed, you might want to adjust that. But you really will need to update your Midlands Gives point of contact, fill out that participation agreement, verify that you're in good standing with the Secretary of State. We'll double check that. So if you're not sure, just answer to the best of your ability. And also if you're a Black-led, Black benefiting organization, that is new this year. And Black-led, Black benefiting is defined as your executive director is Black, or 50% of your leadership team is Black, 50%, at least 50% of your board of directors are Black, and at least 50% of the population you serve are Black. So that'll be a refresher for this year. And so the application will be much quicker if you participated last year.
Great. Next Midlands Gives related question. What is the criteria for joining Midlands Gives?
Yes, so you'll need to be a 501c3 in good standing, located in one of the 11 counties of the Midlands, meaning that your office is located in the 11 counties of the Midlands. And if you don't have a physical office, it's whatever you put on your tax documents would need to be in the 11 counties of the Midlands. And you'll at least have needed to have financial information for at least 1 year. So if you're an organization that just got their 501c3, unfortunately, you may not be able to do this year, but you can try again next year. And if you're right on that cusp of like 10, 11 months, go ahead and register anyway, because by the time that you get to May 4th, you will have had a year's worth of financial information.
Great. And for everyone still in attendance, our CFO wanted me to let everyone know that Midlands Gives distributions are made quarterly.
Yes, very good to know. They're made quarterly for those year-round, so that year-round platform that I referenced. Those donations are made quarterly, and then after Midlands Gives, it's about a month after the giving day actually occurs, and so there'll be continued money flow, which is yet again another really great benefit of registering for Midlands Gives.
Okay, a nonprofit capacity building question. Are the capacity building mini grants restricted to nonprofits located in the 11 counties?
Sorry, I was on mute, but yes, so it's for the nonprofits located in the 11 counties.
So the majority of our grants are limited to our 11 counties, with the exception of Sunoco, Lynch's, Aflac, and Hootie. Am I correct, everyone?
Yeah. Yes.
So all the rest of them, though, are limited to our 11 counties.
Okay, the next question. Will you please share the areas of service for the Knight Foundation?
Sure, it's also on our website. So it really looks at, it's their own version of livability, right? They're looking at attracting and retaining talent. They're looking at expanding economic opportunity, really kind of the revitalization of our Main Street in Columbia. How do you expand that to other communities? They're also, just for this year, looking at how do we revitalize our economy and rebuild community after the pandemic. And also really thinking through how do we create a culture of engagement, civic engagement in particular. How do we get people to be more informed about their community and more engaged in trying to, whether that's around, it's really around civic engagement and awareness and knowledge. So that's really what they're looking at. So some of the projects they've funded, as an example, because I know it's a little bit squishy sometimes, they have funded some work around how to train everyday people on how to talk with their community leaders and try to promote change within their community. They have funded some programs to really engage USC students within the community, because sometimes they're sort of isolated within their campus. So really, how do you engage them to work with professionals in Columbia so they can be part of the larger community and see Columbia as a place that they can possibly work once they graduate? They've also funded the cultural plan for the city of Columbia. It's called Amplify Columbia. So those are some of the examples of some of the work that they've done around attracting and retaining talent. Oh, and they recently also funded a journalist at the state newspaper to work around the issue of affordable housing. So those are some of the things that they've done around attracting and retaining talent, creating a culture of engagement and community and economic opportunity.
Great. Joanne asked if we would please review what Connected Community grants will not fund.
Yes, so some of the things that we will not fund is routine operating expenses of the organization, fundraising projects, including those great events, debt reduction, endowment or capital campaigns, as well as medical research and conference travel, underwriting, or sponsorship.
No, Connected Communities looks different this year. And so we acknowledge that we're learning along with others on this one, because some of this space is a little bit new for us. You know, we haven't typically done, you know, affordable housing or quality jobs or healthcare facilities as part of Connected Communities before. And so we'll be working alongside with you all. And the cap has dropped. It's 50,000 this year, not 75. It has been in years past. And so we're expecting sort of an array of applications to come across our desk. So what does affordable housing look like? Could it, you know, what is that going to look like? And so that's what we're really excited to be able to get from you, from the community, to figure out how we can address these. Community Foundation does like to be one of other multiple funders. We don't typically want to be the only funder of a project, which is why we do ask for that 30% match. But we'd love to come alongside a project, and this is true for Knight Foundation as well, to think about what this project could be, what it is right now, but what it could be if it had Knight funding or Connected Communities funding to make it even better. So we do also want to have other funders at the table, or other funding streams at the table as well.
Okay, next question. Do we go through your website or AFLAC directly for the AFLAC grant? And I can answer that. You can go on our website, yourfoundation.org/AFLAC, and the application will be there on that page for you. And for all the other grants as well, again, yourfoundation.org/grants. Okay, next question is, I'm scrolling it. We're also getting very nice comments saying thank you for the information. And then,
I do want to mention one. So the Jumpstart it can be a little complicated. So I do want to clarify some things for Jumpstart, because it's not for every organization. We fully acknowledge that. It is for an organization that is able to start a new contract for their donor management software. And so that's really, you have to be in a place where you're either don't have any sort of software you're using other than, you know, Excel, but you're at a point where you can start a new contract, and that contract would start, Maya, is that March 1st is whenever they would start the Jumpstart program?
Yep, so it'll start March 1st.
Right, so that sometimes is a barrier for some folks, because they're like, well, I'm still under contract for another year. Well, then this probably doesn't work for you right now. But if you don't have any software that you're currently using, or you're able to end that and start new software March 1. And then there's also, I think, the biggest benefit, honestly, people love the software. I need to say that. They also love having at their disposal 5+ hours a month of a professional coach to talk you through fundraising, talk you through donor communication. But some of these folks also talk to them about board development and what you need to have in place to work with that. And so it really goes beyond, but sometimes it's just a nice sounding board to have at your disposal as well. You have to be able to, though, commit at least 5 hours a month to this work, 5 hours a week to this work. So that's no small ask. But you also there is a matching component there between $500 to $1,000 that your nonprofit has to bring to the table. It is a sliding scale as to what you're able to provide. But if you think about it, that's at most $1,000 commitment on your part, less than $100 a month for this donor software, as well as a personal coach. And a lot of resources as well, a lot of templates that you have access to. And then there's quarterly check-ins with the other nonprofits as well for you to create that cohort. So it's a really good investment if you're an organization that's at the right time and place for that. But reach out to Maya or myself if you have questions for that. But the information session on the 30th will really clarify exactly what this project is and who's it best for. So you can only really get the link to the application if you watch or if you participate in the information session or watch the recorded version. So that's why that's required.
Great. This next question, in this virtual world, is there a grant that could help specifically with needs such as website updates, virtual platforms, and even capacity building for staff if they're not tech savvy?
Yeah, so we knew that was a need. That recently came out in some of the survey data that was just released that we sent out our nonprofit newsletter. Right now, we don't have anything available for that, but we do certainly understand that that is absolutely a need. There is one resource, and I'll try to go back and circle back because that I saw nationally that was providing some support for nonprofits. And if they did open that up, we'll put it in the next nonprofit newsletter, but I'll take a look for that.
Okay. If we submitted a capacity building mini grant application last year that was not, and we did not get that award, could we submit again for the same project this year?
That's up to you. So I would possibly reach out though to either Maya or myself and find out a little bit more information as to why it wasn't funded, and see how you can strengthen that application or if there are tweaks that need to be made so it can align a little better with the capacity building needs. And that's probably for any application, I need to say. I would certainly reach out if it wasn't funded and you want to, if you want to, kind of ask for that same need again, get a little bit more guidance as to how to improve the application.
Great. For nonprofit capacity building grants, do you make referrals for consultants that work with nonprofits?
I love that question. We typically refer you to Together SC because they have a really long list of really good consultants. We can also talk through your specific needs as to what you might need and can provide you maybe some leads, but we certainly recommend you interview and talk to all these different consultants. And we are going to be working with Together SC to hopefully make their list a little bit more robust and a little bit more diverse. And so that hopefully will continue to evolve. So certainly check out their resources page. They do have some really good consultants on there. And if you are going to be applying for a capacity building grant and you do want a consultant, please know that you have to provide that consultant's budget. So you'll need to talk with that consultant ahead of time so they can draft those pretty quickly. It doesn't need to be super in detail, but we need to know what they're offering you and what their charges are going to be. And that does need to be attached to your application. So if you say you're going to use a consultant and don't submit a budget, your application will not be funded.
There are a couple of very, very organization-specific questions here. And so for those of you who have asked those, what I'm going to do is take those questions and email them to the correct team member to have them reach out to you directly for those specific questions. We do have a question about Midlands Gives. Is there a training time for Midlands Gives?
Yes, so once you are approved for Midlands Gives, you'll receive the schedule of training. If you're a new organization or organization who's hasn't participated in Midlands Gives from the year prior, you'll need to participate in Midlands Gives 101. That will be available as a recording during the registration process, just so you kind of know what you're getting yourselves into. But then it will be available through the month of January. That training schedule hasn't been completed at this point, mostly because Erin and I took some major time to talk with nonprofits and see what actually was supportive in the way of capacity building. And so we're actually restructuring some of those trainings. But once they're finalized, they will be available on the Midlands Gives website and communicated to those organizations participating in Midlands Gives. But yeah, that's actually one of the great benefits of Midlands Gives, is that you get a lot of free training. So if nothing else, you get that awareness on the platform, but you also get those free trainings for capacity building, particularly focused around fundraising.
And I will say, even though some of those might not be required, I would strongly encourage you still to attend. There's some good information there. And we've talked with some nonprofits who've said, you should make those required because they're really good. And I learned a lot but I wouldn't have done it unless it, I had to. So I really recommend if someone from your team sits in, takes good notes, and shares it back with your organization.
Next question. Does CCCF assist grassroots organizations in obtaining their 501c3 status?
Jamesha, you want to take that?
I was talking, I was on mute. I would say currently right now, we do not, but Together SC is there for a reason. They are the nonprofit association in South Carolina. I've sent numerous people to their website. They actually have a tab that says resources, and before you start a nonprofit, just covering all those things from HR to board management, everything that you would need to know regarding establishing a nonprofit. Again, that is Together SC, and their website is www.togethersc.org.
This next question is also for Jamesha. Is the David W. Robinson Catalyst Award a monetary award?
So what I will say is the focus is not the monetary portion, although in years past it has come with a grant to the organization. But what I try to tell folks, and I really hone in on this, is that it's all about the leadership of the organization and the impact the organization has made. So we don't want to focus it on like, oh, it's another grant opportunity, because it's really not that. It's the opportunity to really highlight an organization who's done some great work. And as the benefit of, receiving this award, it comes with a small donation.
Okay, next question. How can I find BIPOC orgs easily to donate to?
On midlandsgives.org. I'm sorry to just derail this entire grants presentation about Midlands Gives, but on midlandsgives.org, there's actually under the categories, there is Black-led, Black benefiting organizations that hasn't been expanded to POC organizations. So if you do have questions, feel free to email me at midlandsgives@yourfoundation.org, and I can support you in that. But Black-led, Black benefiting organizations are readily listed right there on Midlands Gives platform.
Next question. To apply for a Greater Chapin Community Foundation or Orangeburg Community Foundation grant, do you have to be headquartered in Orangeburg County or Lexington County? Or if I'm headquartered in Lexington County but serving Orangeburg County, could I apply for Orangeburg County?
So for Greater Chapin, you will need to be serving Chapin, the Greater Chapin community. So at the very least, you would need to be would need to be the service area. Greater Chapin isn't necessarily going to fund a project that's supporting Orangeburg, even if you're housed in Lexington. And I would imagine Orangeburg is the same. The idea is that your service area is whatever is wherever you're applying for.
Yeah. You're correct, Elizabeth. And right now with Orangeburg, they currently do not have a competitive grant open. And for the Chapin Community Foundation, it is the Greater Chapin area. So that is Ballantyne, White Rock, Newberry. From their past grant history, what I can say is majority of the organizations have been located within those Greater Chapin areas. However, there may have been one or two that were focused in that were physically located, in Lexington County, but they did a lot of work in the Greater Chapin community area. That community foundation really focused on supporting nonprofits who are uplifting the quality of life for residents in the Greater Chapin area.
And for Orangeburg, they're doing matching grants for Midlands Gives at this point. So for that, you have to physically have an office in Orangeburg to be able to access, Orangeburg or Calhoun, to be able to access those matching funds.
Does the funding focus for the AFLAC grant change with each grant cycle?
No, currently and for a while now, they have still focused on health and well-being and education. So typically we will still continue to see those two areas in upcoming grant cycles.
Are local government entities in the 11 county service area eligible for mini grants?
I'm not sure what mini grant you're referring to. They can apply. They're not for capacity building mini grants. they would be eligible for Beyond the Table grants. And they are eligible for Connected Communities. But those I think are the main ones, but not for capacity building mini grants, no. If that's what you're referring to.
Okay. If you serve one of the 11 counties in the Midlands, but your agency is headquartered outside of the 11 counties, is the organization eligible for Midlands Gives?
So there has been some case-by-case spaces where we have made that approval, but you would definitely need to be able to show that there is service that is being provided to at least one of the 11 counties of the Midlands, and verify that that is the case. But it is case-by-case. So if there's questions there, reach out to me at midlandsgives@yourfoundation.org.
For the Connected Communities grants, will arts events be eligible? And if so, are there any stipulations on those art events?
So that question is really tricky. So, because my first thought is, what do you mean when you say arts events? It's different from a performance versus if you were having a installment gallery that included, other ways to involve the community. So I would say with that one in particular, I would love to have a conversation just to know more about what our event is, but typically we do not fund any sort of events, one-time things.
So as well because the arts and culture one is a little bit different, right? So we also would, we have funded some arts and culture events through Connected Communities, but the requirement would be that it would have to be free and open to the public. And be quite welcoming to anyone, and be promoted to anyone, intentionally promoted to all. So that would be something we would also want to look at.
If our organization needs to switch to a new CRM, are we eligible for the Jumpstart grant?
Yes. And that's the ideal candidate, exactly, who we're looking for. Someone who their CRM, customer, whatever,
relationship
management software, if it's not working for you, what you have right now, this is an opportunity to try something out with a pretty low investment on your part. So yes, it would be, you're the ideal candidate as long as you can commit 5 hours a week, and you can pay the $500 to $1,000 for the year of service.
I'm not quite sure which grant this is referring to, but the question is, will 100% virtual projects be considered for funding?
Yeah, so what you're going to see in all of our applications now, we are going to say this project must be able to be completed either virtually or ensuring social distancing to ensure the safety of the public and your staff. In an ideal world, we'll all be able to be around each other here in a few months. But we can't fund projects that have to wait for that to happen. So you need to think now what the projects could be, both either all virtual, all socially distanced, but also in an ideal, wonderful world, maybe we're going to be in person by next summer. So whatever project you're proposing, it does need to be able to be completed either virtually or socially distant. And that's for the foreseeable future, at least. And that's for all of our projects. Because we also have seen that people have been in this holding pattern, and we have quite a few grantees that have not been able to spend their funds, and that's not good for anybody. We want you to be able to spend the dollars you have. So whatever project you're proposing, you want to be able to ask for the funding you need and be able to expense that before the end of the project. And I know that makes it hard to do a budget. I fully acknowledge that.
Okay, 2 last questions. The first, if we are hosting a ticketed event, a golf tournament, for example, can patrons use Midlands Gives as opposed to us using a platform like Eventbrite, which charges large fees?
No, because it's not a donation per se. So if you were going to do something like that, you might want to say, please make donations to Midlands Gives and show proof of receipt upon entry. That's the only way I could imagine it working. Otherwise, I think it gets a little strange. We can't do ticketing through Midlands Gives platform. But if you do want your donations going directly through that way, rather than going through Eventbrite, that might be an alternative.
But
Right.
I would say,
Go ahead, Jamesha.
I would say along with that, you have to make sure that the integrity of the tax deduction is in place, because everything that we get through Midlands Gives, our finance team, who is amazing, they will send out a tax deduction that says no goods or services where you receive no goods and services in exchange for this. So I would say, I would actually suggest not to do it through Midlands Gives, because you want to keep integrity. We want to make sure that we keep our 501c3 status up and current, but we also want to make sure that you all are doing best practices and keeping your 501c3 status intact as well. And the integrity of that tax deduction gift is key.
Yeah, and another alternative is you can actually list the event on the Midlands Gives platform. So on your profile, there's a tab, events, on the left-hand side, where you can say that the event is happening and let folks know what's going on. So if they visit your Midlands Gives profile on the Midlands Gives website, they'll see that there's an event and they can find out more and get linked to that Eventbrite over there. So that's a way to use the platform, but not necessarily go through the platform to make it happen.
Great. And Elizabeth, the last question is for you. What are the topics for On the Table?
Yes, so for On the Table, we don't require a topic necessarily, but we have made available in combination with the more kind of generic open guide that's been available the past years. We have 4 tailored conversation guides around civic engagement, race relations, education, and poverty. And those are all listed on the website right now under host resources. They'll also be available in Spanish by end of day today. So the English is already posted, but the Spanish ones will be available as well. So of course, like I mentioned, you don't have to choose one. You'll see it in the host registration of, are you planning to focus on a particular topic? That's mostly just out of curiosity to know what people are talking about, but you don't have to. You can make it something that's more specific to your community or the needs of the people attending your conversation as well.
Now, I want to clarify what Elizabeth talked about was the topics of the On the Table conversations. Now, there are Beyond the Table grants that are being offered starting the first day of On the Table, October 4th. And it's a little different this year. You can focus on whatever community need that you have identified or your table has identified or whatever that is. We do have suggestions on our website of things you might want to consider, but it can focus on whatever community need you have. But you do need to include either volunteering, promoting civic engagement, fostering social change, or supporting a locally owned business. So it is a little bit different this year. So I just want to clarify between the On the Table conversations and the Beyond the Table grants.
Yeah, I think the way the question was phrased.
It was, but I was just making sure everybody listening knew the difference between On the Table and Beyond the Table.
Yes. Thank you for that, Erin.
Okay. Is there anything else, Lee?
No, those are all the questions we have. And I would just remind everyone that to see all these grant opportunities, you go to yourfoundation.org/grants.
Yes, thank you all. Again, our contact information is right here. We always suggest that you look at our website first to, find out which grant you're interested in, and then come to us with specific questions so that we're able to best support you. But we really thank you all for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. And we look forward to hopefully developing some really good lasting relationships with each of you moving forward. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.